Recording in progress.
Shalom, Mishpaka. Thawadah for tuning in to the spirits, waters in the blood. Matah, YaHaWadah, your favorite Hebrew brother here, just to address a little topic on what what the Father has put in my spirit in order to talk about different individuals on. I noticed, or just to bring up the subject of the Passover. I noticed that a lot of individuals, they tune to celebrate the Passover alone, and then other individuals are undershadowing the Passover by the or communion, the wine and the sacrifice and remembrances of YaHaWaShi. So most definitely I wanted to address that today in order to talk about along with the different, I'm not going to mention or go into the different seasons, but everything shall be celebrated within its season. So individuals tend to celebrate the Sabbath, the Sabbath along with the Passover during different time frames or during different time frames. So me myself, I follow it by the the summer solstice. So anyway, but not to go on into that. If you doing a symbolic thing on that symbolic day, then all praises to the Most High, Yah, and most definitely nothing but love for you, and the individuals in the way that you do that ceremonial event with all praises, giving him those thanks. And with the Passover, it's all about him leading us out of the land of Egypt and the bondage and the captivity that we were in into a different land and different freedoms and freedom to worship him the way that we should worship him. Salakia. With that, I'm going to go ahead and say Thawadah YaHaWaH for putting this spirit on me in order to talk about the Passover and to bring it up on a special day in remembrance, which is supposed to be symbolically for. So, Thawadah YaHaWaH BaHashem HaMashiach YaHaWaShi Uvain Barakata Ruach Kodeshecha. Now, with that being said, basically the Passover is a lot of different things that's entailed within the Passover. Oh, I can't stand looking over it. Salaki. Yeah. Different topics that's involving the Passover. So with one, let's do this. Fair use, fair use, fair use. Everything that I use as far as music and any instrumentals or whatever that you may hear in the background comes from for edification purposes, fair use, and my sharing of information that's allotted to me, like on the internet library. So with that being said, we have individuals that celebrate the Passover during particular times when they really shouldn't. Well, I'm not going to go into that, but it's a lot of rituals and cultures and individuals that's predominantly controlling Jewish beliefs, I guess, or the ceremonial beliefs, where that's the same thing that YaHaWaShi was in combatants with the scribes and the Sadducees. They were trying to teach the Talmud, while he was telling you, no, we don't follow the Talmud. We follow the word. We follow the word of God, or the word of Elohim. So most definitely their traditions and their ways and their views helped us change what would be considered the appropriate way to celebrate Passover. So now, what did I do? I'm not trying to do that. There we go. Alright, so now blow that up here. then we go into the Passover, and basically what the Passover is all about, who it's for, and why it should be celebrated a certain kind of way. So now we go to, this is the KJV, Deuteronomy 7. The Passover is actually for a chosen people. A chosen people. For you are a holy people to YaHaWaH, your Elohim. YaHaWaH Elohim has chosen you to be a people for himself, a special treasure above all the peoples of the face of the earth. YaHaWaH did not sit his love on you, nor choose you because you were more in number than any other people. For you were the least of all peoples, because Elohim YaHaWaH loves you, and because he will keep the oath which he has sworn to your fathers, or sworn to your fathers. YaHaWaH has brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of bondage, from the hand of king of Egypt. So basically, this is what the Passover is basically all about. It's about a chosen people and his deliverance from bondage. Personally, his physically hand moving in his spirit, spoken by our prophet and most high priest Moshe, or Moses. So then I'm gonna go ahead and go back here. But like I said, fair use, fair use, fair use. And in this particular video, he's going to actually give a breakdown of how certain things got infused into the Passover, that which actually turned it from, just like the Father's name, what they considered to be a dirty thing, or what they made dirty by the images of the Tetragrammaton that they created. But this guy helps explain the Passover, and if I was to say these things, then they may look at it and say, well, you kind of, you're being anti with that. So you're being anti with that. So basically, if I'm not saying these things and I let it come from one of the horses' mouth, then maybe, it'll be more acceptable. So I'll go ahead and do this. Let me move a little, or set up the sound so that way you'll be able to hear the actual video. Thawadah, I'll be right back.
In article form, so if there's anything you'd like to go back and read. Shalom, brothers and sisters. My name is Adam here with Parable of the Vineyard, and I'd like to share a couple things that I think you may want to know regarding Passover coming up really soon. Everything we discuss today will be in article form, so if there's any Shalom, brothers and sisters. My name is Adam here with Parable of the Vineyard, and I'd like to share a couple things that I think you may want to know regarding Passover coming up really soon. Everything we discuss today will be in article form, so if there's anything you'd like to go back and restudy for yourself at your own pace, I'll make sure to have this link for you in the description box below and the pinned comment. So Passover, what to avoid. So Shalom family, Pesach or Passover 2023 is almost upon us, and there's something that needs to be voiced. It seems that many of you have questions about the meal and the service, rightly so. The scriptures tell us to eat three things: lamb, unleavened bread, and bitter herbs. That's it. Yet the predominant rendition of the Passover meal is the Seder plate and service. Most are unaware that this practice stems from pagan origins, as we will prove momentarily. Is this something we should be intermingling with this holy day that represents our Messiah? Let's begin with the word. Exodus 12 explains the contents of the Passover meal. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, the lamb, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Exodus 12:8. This is the meal. Why then are many people eating a Passover meal consisting of eggs, charoset, which is a mixture of fruit, nuts, and wine, and other foods not given to us in Scripture? This is typically what is widely known. This is called the Passover Seder plate. Furthermore, why are the masses not eating the lamb? Don't you think that's symbolic, considering Messiah is the lamb and this feast is all about him? We'll come back to that later. The truth is, YaHaWaH, that's how we understand our Heavenly Father. Some people say Yahweh or Yehovah, whatever. We understand it as YaHaWaH. So the truth is, YaHaWaH hates when people celebrate him in man-made ways. Our Messiah often rebuked the religious leaders for their man-made teachings. You hypocrites! Well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, these people draw close to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. That was Matthew 15:7-9. So I ask you, do any of you want to worship him in vain? Just a question. The Seder meal is a man-made tradition that you won't find anywhere in the Word. Nowhere. So though millions will be celebrating the Passover meal in the weeks to come, how many will be doing it his way? After all, this is all about him, isn't it? It's a question. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feasts of YaHaWaH, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. So these aren't Jewish festivals. These are feasts of the Most High. They're his. They're not for the Jews. I'm not saying they're for the Jews. They come from the Most High himself. Leviticus 23:2. You shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall you take away from it, that you may keep the commandments of YaHaWaH your Elohim, that's the Hebrew word for God as we understand it, which I command you, Deuteronomy 4:2. So because the Passover meal is so unrecognizable compared to how Exodus 12-13 describes it, is the feast his anymore? Is it still his? And this is what he says in Isaiah. He rebukes them. Your appointed feasts my soul hates. They are a trouble unto me. I am weary to bear them. Isaiah 1:14. Many people are waking up and recognizing the true blessing of celebrating the feast days our Heavenly Father instituted thousands of years ago. The problem is, many are leaning too heavily on Judaism for answers. If you've read the gospel accounts, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, then you know how often our Messiah rebuked the vain traditions of the Jews we're so accustomed to. Moreover, modern-day Judaism is nothing other than Pharisaic practices with 2,000 years of room for more additions. Rabbinic Judaism. Rabbinic Judaism, also called Rabbinism or Rabbinicism, or Judaism espoused by the Rabbinites, has been the mainstream form of Judaism since the 6th century CE after the codification of the Babylonian Talmud. The Talmud, I'll just give you the short on that. That Talmud is their authoritative book. They actually elevate it higher than the Torah, the prophets, the writings. It says here, let's see. Rabbinic Judaism contrasts with the Sadducees, Karaite Judaism, and Samaritanism, which do not recognize the oral Torah as divine authority, nor the rabbinic procedures used to interpret Jewish scripture. Myself, growing up as a Jew, I can attest that the Talmud is held in higher regard than the Torah, writings, and the prophets. They won't say that, but in actual practice, that's what happens. So what I'm talking about here is not anti this word right here. This has nothing to do against a group of people. What this has to do, this is about cleaning house. In fact, Messiah told us to beware of and cut out their doctrine. That is the doctrine of the Pharisees, which is, again, what we saw here is what modern Judaism is all about. Then Yahusha, this is how we understand our Messiah's name. Some say Yeshua, Yahusha, there's different pronunciation, but this is how we understand it. So then Yahusha said unto them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Then a little bit later, then understood they, and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. There's different pronunciation, but this is how we understand it. So then Yahusha said unto them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Then a little bit later, then understood they, that's the disciples, how that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. That's Matthew 16, 6 through 12. So Messiah told us to beware of their teachings, of their doctrines. So my question to you is, will we be celebrating Passover with the leaven of the Pharisees this year? That's a question. Only you can answer. Purge out, therefore, the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, as you are unleavened. For even Messiah, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Therefore, let us keep the feast. This is from Paul, 6 through 12. So Messiah told us to beware of their teachings, of their doctrines. So my question to you is, will we be celebrating Passover with the leaven of the Pharisees this year? That's a question. Only you can answer. Purge out, therefore, the old leaven, that you may be... Purge out, therefore, the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, as you are unleavened. For even Messiah, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. For even Messiah, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. For even Messiah, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Therefore, let us keep the feast. This is from Paul. Let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. There's a link here if you want to find out the biblical definition of what truth actually is. And that was 1 Corinthians 5, 7 through 8. So perhaps it's time to follow the doctrine our Messiah taught, echoed by Paul. Let's remove the perhaps it's time to follow our Messiah taught, echoed by Paul. Let's remove the doctrine our Messiah taught, echoed by Paul. Perhaps it's time to follow the doctrine our Messiah taught, echoed by Paul. Let's remove the leaven, the doctrine, from this feast day, as well as other areas of our worship towards YaHaWaH, the Most High. So now let's go straight to the source. This is a Jewish rabbi, and hear exactly where the Seder came from. This is about a 3-minute clip that I'd like to share with you. So here we go.
Shavua Tov from Schechter. As we approach the holiday of Pesach, I would like to talk about the Seder and the Symposium. Where did the Seder come from? If you look through the entire Tanakh, you will find no mention of the Seder. If you look through all the Second Temple sources, you will find no mention of the Seder. The Seder was first mentioned in the Mishnah and Tosefta Psachim, chapter 10, which was apparently written at the end of the Second Temple period. In 1957, Siegfried Stein published a famous article in the Journal of Jewish Studies, in which he shows that the Seder took the forms of the Greek symposium or banquet and transformed them into the Pesach Seder. For example, the Mishnah tells us that we must recline on a couch during the Seder, and if you look here at the picture of a Greek symposium, you will see that all the participants are reclining on couches. Similarly, we are told in the Talmud Bavli in the Tractate of Psachim that you have to recline on your left arm at the Seder. So too, if you look at the pictures of the Greek symposium, they were all reclining on their left arm. At the Seder, we dip chazeret, or lettuce, romaine lettuce, in salt water. That's exactly what they did at the symposium. At the Seder, we eat charoset. That was one of the standard foods served at the symposium. At the Seder, we have the korech, we have the Hillel sandwich. Once again, this was a standard custom at the symposium. Similarly, the Mishnah talks about the afikoman after the Paschal lamb, and Professor Saul Lieberman proved in the 1930s that the afikoman is a slight variation on the Greek word epikomon, and epikomon was a custom of carousing after the symposium, going from house to house, dancing, singing, drinking, and you're not allowed to do that after the Paschal sacrifice. In a similar fashion, the literary forms of the Seder are based on the symposium. For example, the 4 questions, which are really quite simple. At the symposium, the questions asked were also very simple. In the Haggadah, we read about the 5 sages reclining all night long in Bnei Brak. Similarly, at the symposium, they would recline all night long. Another parallel, the Mishnah in Psachim says that one must explain Pesach, Matzah, and Maror at the Seder, and the items must be lifted up when explaining them. So too at the symposium, they would lift up a piece of food and give an explanation about that piece of food. At the Seder, we sing the Nishmat, one of the most beautiful prayers in our liturgy, in which we talk about our mouths filled with song as the sea. At the symposium, they would sing songs in praise of the emperor. What can we learn from all of these parallels? The Jewish people throughout the generations did not live in a vacuum. They absorbed much from their surroundings, but they did not absorb blindly. The sages took the form of the symposium and entirely changed the contents of the symposium and turned the symposium into the Seder. The Greeks and the Romans discussed love, beauty, food, and drink. The sages discussed the exodus from Egypt, the miracles of God, and the greatness of the Geulah, or the redemption. The symposium was meant for the elite. The Seder was meant for the entire Jewish people. We are bombarded today by a host of outside influences from the Western world. May God give us the wisdom to selectively adopt some of their forms and to fill them with Jewish content, as the sages did at the Seder. Chag Kasher v'Sameach, may you have a joyous Seder and Passover holiday.
So, needless to say, I obviously do not agree with everything he just mentioned, but I wanted to share this with you because the information was correct. So you can hear for yourself, straight from their own mouth, that the Seder came directly from the Greek Symposium, which we'll talk about here in just a second. The Greco-Roman Symposium, which is a dinner and drinking party where participants ate and drank by the numbers. For example, everyone lift up the egg and recite something or pray or chant and then eat. And that's exactly what the Passover Seder is. So my question to you is, do you think the Most High wants any of this? Do you think he wants a mishmash of the Passover meal and a Greek symposium? Of course not. He tells us not to do that. Matter of fact, I think it's in Deuteronomy 12. He says, don't worship me in the way that the pagans do. He wants nothing to do with it. So, in any case, the symposium was a feast of reveling or partying. We know what the scriptures say in Galatians 5 and in Revelation about those who are revelers. Why would we want to mix anything that had to do with origins of the Greek symposium? So there's so much more to cover regarding how to keep the Passover with sincerity and truth, as Paul encouraged. And I'd like to point out our most recent study on the topic. We did this a couple weeks ago, the Passover 2023. This is an in-depth look at the Passover meal and week of unleavened bread using the scriptures only. So if you have questions of like, hey, we want to do Passover, but we just don't know how, I'd love to suggest that for you. So there'll be a link there in the description box as well as the link here in the article. So let's finish up here. The Talmud, the lamb, and finishing up. So as we mentioned earlier, I find it highly symbolic that the Jewish tradition of Passover excludes eating of any actual lamb meat. You just stare at a lamb bone all night. And as a child growing up, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. But okay. I mean, they'd have an explanation for that, of course, but it doesn't make any sense. So some might stare at a lamb bone all night. And as a child growing up, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. It's eating of any actual lamb meat. You just stare at a lamb bone all night. And as a child growing up, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. But okay. I mean, they'd have an explanation for that, of course, but it doesn't make any sense. So some might say, and this is part of what their reasoning, some might say the lamb can be only eaten in Jerusalem or with the temple standing. However, that's not what Messiah teaches. In fact, He foretold a time would come where the place of worship or celebration would not matter. This is the time in John 4 when he's sitting with the woman at the well. Yahusha, or Messiah, said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour comes when you shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. But the hour comes and now is when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father seeks such to worship him." John 4:21 and 23. So he's saying right here, there's going to be a time where, the place of Jerusalem is not going to matter, because he knew that shortly after his death, burial, and resurrection, that in 70 AD it would be destroyed, and the race of the Yahudim, the Jews, and all the others would be spread across the four corners of the earth. So we discussed this point much further in our full study that was just cited, as far as why I believe that we can celebrate the Passover anywhere we're at in the four corners of the earth right now. So the Talmud, right? So these teachings come from the Talmud. The Talmud right here is the central text of Rabbinic Judaism and the primary source of Jewish religious law and Jewish theology, right? So this is the book. And so again, my position here is not to attack these people, but the doctrine, right? So this has nothing to do with attacking a group of people. Matter of fact, as I mentioned earlier, I came from this group of people. So I'm not hating on the same group of people I came from. Praise be to Yah, he pulled me out of Judaism and showed me his son and the truth. And so I'm here to give you a position of understanding both Judaism and Christianity, but showing really the true way, which avoids all man-made doctrine. So the truth is, the Babylonian Talmud is the enemy of Messiah and our Heavenly Father. It is the central source of doctrine for Judaism. We'll finish up with a few quotes from this book of doctrine, the Talmud. So in this book, the Jews say our Messiah is boiling in excrement. I'm not even going to read this, and I want to let you know that these passages are book of doctrine, the Talmud. So in this book, the Jews say our Messiah is boiling in excrement. I'm not even going to read this, and I want to let you know that these passages are not taken out of context. They're not just cherry picked. These are just chunks of well, we call it scripture from their book. This is not scripture, but this is passages, from their book, the Talmud. So it literally says their book literally says our Messiah is boiling in excrement in hell. So again, I ask you, don't you think it's symbolic that they don't eat of the lamb? And why would we follow their practices? Gentiles are animals, not people, and that's why they call them dogs. Again, I know this growing up. Obviously, I don't believe. Believe that, but I remember that this is often cited. So I'm not going to read this because I don't even want to repeat it, but this will be here for those of you that want to do your own research and see what their book says for yourself. Jews can, I don't even want to read this. This, but you can see it for yourself, and they literally say that this is legal according to the Talmud. Jews can also do. Do this according to their book, and this is still in their books today, in the Talmud. This is still written right now. So again, I ask you: is this really where we want to glean our wisdom from? Right here, this is a link. This is a link to another practice that the Talmud promotes that I don't even want to show on screen or even mention. I will say it has to do with circumcision and a rabbi's mouth, and it's still being done today, and it has to do with circumcision and a rabbi's mouth. And here, this is a link. This is a link to another practice that the Talmud promotes that I don't even want to show on screen or even mention. I will say it has to do with circumcision and a rabbi's mouth, and it's it's still being done today, and it's still taught in the Talmud. So I ask, to those of you who want to serve our Creator in spirit and truth, and in the light of Messiah, should we be leaning on the Jews for doctrine anymore? Specifically, their Talmud and their oral traditions. It's time for a revolution for YaHaWa's people, walking away from the traditions of men and back to his word. Come out of her, my people, Revelation 18 says. So again, if you like a more in-depth study on how to celebrate Passover by the scriptures only, see the study below. We cover the how, when, why, where, and prophecy regarding Passover. So here's some links for further research on the Greek Symposium. This red part here is a link, how the Greek Symposium and the Seder service relate, wicked passages in the Talmud, and more. So I hope this was good information for you. Blessings and shalom. And I pray that you have a blessed Passover whatever calendar and wherever you do celebrate it. Shalom.
Okay, that was just a brief little information on the Talmud and basically how we get different things that the Messiah talked about, YaHaWaShi talked about in rebellion against what were doctrines of men, which is the Talmud. That was trying to, or the way that individuals wanted to enforce a certain way that you're supposed to celebrate and honor the words of the Father. So you're using you're taking the way the divinity guidance and the strong hand of the word, and you're replacing it with another theology or religious aspect of that word, and creation of the Talmud in two versions, one the Jewish Talmud and then the other one the Babylonian Talmud, and they go by, I believe, the Babylonian Talmud, although both say similar things. They echo each other. So with that being said, it's different ways in which the Messiah and the Passover and all of this, it ties in, but not in a way that individuals use the death and resurrection of YaHaWaShi as the main focal point, when this is supposed to be the Lord's Passover, not the Last Supper, the Lord's Passover. All right, so we're here. I'm gonna go ahead and bounce here because and out of the Blue Letter Bible, and then this is Exodus 12. The Passover instituted. Now YaHaWa spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be your beginnings of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, On the 10th of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb. According, and I use this summer hostess, other individuals can, hopefully the Father directs them and have discernment at when to appropriately celebrate the Sabbath and appropriate celebrate Passover, get all of the seasons within line. On the 10th day of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for that lamb or for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of persons, according to each man's need. Shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You may take it from the sheep or from your goats. Now ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at twilight. And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts, and on the lintel of the house where they eat it, on the lintel of the house where they eat it. Then they shall eat the flesh on that night. Then they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire with unleavened bread. Then they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted. Then they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted with fire, with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat. And with bitter herbs they shall eat. The flesh of the lamb with bitter herbs and unleavened bread. Do not eat it raw, nor boil it at all with water, but roast it in fire, its heads with its legs and its entrails. Everything, the whole thing. You shall let none of it remain until morning. You shall let none of it remain until morning. And with what remains of it until morning, you shall burn with fire. You shall burn with fire, and thus you shall eat it. Burn it with fire, and thus you shall eat it. With a belt on your waist, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. So ye shall eat it in haste. Eat it in haste. Not like, you chilling. Hey, none of that. You shall eat it in haste. Not like an Egyptian. It is YaHaWa's. It is, so you shall eat it in haste. And why shall you eat it in haste? Because it is YaHaWa's Passover. The Father YaHaWaH is moving on that night. Keep in mind, he killed a lot of individuals for a sacrifice for us on that night, the chosen ones. For I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the Elahiyas or Els of Egypt. I will execute judgment. I, YaHaWaH, now the blood shall be a sign for you. Now the blood shall be a sign for you. Now the blood shall be a sign for you on your houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over, and the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. He was physically, he physically laid hands on Egypt. So this day, so the Imperial Papyrus, I did another video on the Imperial Papyrus. I believe that was called the first Passover. And basically the Imperial Papyrus describes the physical, something physically struck Egypt in that days. The princes of Egypt were dashed against walls. People were violently killed. It's like a poltergeist went through Egypt and started killing all of the firstborn, male, female, beast, and everything. That the word, they're saying it from their perspective. The Imperial Papyrus. I forgot the Stele number, but it's the Imperial Papyrus. Look it up. I did a video on it, so look it up on go to my channel. Oh, forgot. Please take the time out to like, share, subscribe. It helps with the frequency of the word, and it helps me it helps me be in a frequency with the Father's word. Show your boys channels, or show your man's channels of support. Most definitely appreciate it. Thawadah to those that do. Thank you to those that do. All right. So I keep going. So this is not too long, because it's a memorial. Now, and I just told you how what you're supposed to eat: unleavened bread, the flesh of the lamb, and bitter herbs, and you shall eat it in haste with your eye, and you shall eat it, but let none remain of it till the morning. And what remains till the morning, you shall burn it with fire, and thus you shall eat it. This is how you should eat it, not what you just burn with fire, but how you should eat the Passover. With a belt on your waist, with sandals on your feet, or your boots on your feet, and with your staff in your hand, or with your utensil, your work, it's sort of like your righteousness, your well, not your righteousness, but sort of like a tool that you use when you're out in the wilderness. Oh, okay, so you have, some people have staffs, others have machetes, and things of that nature. So, but anyway, with a belt on your waist, and your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hands, so you shall eat it in haste. It is YaHaWa's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, just like the imperial papyrus said had happened, both man and beast, and against all the El's of Egypt I will execute judgment. I YaHaWaH. Now the blood shall be a sign a sign for you on the house where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. So this day shall be for you. So this day shall be to you a memorial. So this day to the chosen people. So this day shall be to you a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to YaHaWaH, and you shall keep it a feast to YaHaWaH throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a fast, you shall keep it as a feast by an everlasting ordinance. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Now this is the Feast of Weeks. This is the Feast of Weeks after the Father's Passover. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day ye shall remove leaven from your houses. For whoever eats unleavened bread from the first day until the seventh day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. On the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and Salathia. And on the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation for you. No manner of work shall be done on them, but that which everyone must eat, that only may be prepared for you. But that which everyone must eat, that only may be prepared for you. So you can fix your meals and stuff like that is throughout that time. Just no servile work, like going to work to make some money. So you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for on this day I will have brought your enemies out of the Salathia. So you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for on this day I will have brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations as an everlasting ordinance in the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening. You shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. For 7 days, no leaven shall be found in your house, since whoever eats what is leavened, that same person shall be cut off from the congregation, or cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is a stranger or a native of the land. Ye shall eat nothing leavened in all your dwellings, whether he is a stranger or a native to the land. Ye shall eat nothing leavened in all your dwellings. You shall eat unleavened bread. Salakia. You shall eat nothing leavened in all your dwellings inside of your house. You shall eat unleavened bread. You shall eat unleavened bread. Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, pick out and take lambs for yourselves according to your families, and kill it, and kill the Passover lamb. And ye shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood, a bunch of hyssop, and dip it on the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the two doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. So now he's giving you instructions on how to do it. And none of you shall go out of the door of his house until morning. So there's no partying after that. It's no, they going to chill on that night and go to different people's houses. And none of you should go out of the doors until the morning. For the lamb will, for YaHaWaH will pass through to strike the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the two doorposts, YaHaWaH will pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your home or to your houses to strike you. And you shall observe this thing as an ordinance for you and your sons forever. It will come to pass when you come to the land which YaHaWaH will give you, just as he promised, that ye shall keep this service, keep doing it, keep this service, and which YaHaWaShi did. And it shall come, and it shall be when your children say to you, what do you mean by this service? That ye shall say, it is the Passover sacrifice of YaHaWaH. This is the Passover sacrifice for YaHaWaH. The first one was with the Egyptians. The second one is with, when it came or over to it, is the final one, which is the word of the Father. The sin sacrifice was YaHaWaShi. All right, so this you shall say, it is the Passover sacrifice of YaHaWaH, who passes over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he struck the Egyptians and delivered our households. When he struck the Egyptians and delivered our households. So the people bowed their heads and worshiped. Then the children of Israel went away and did so. Just as YaHaWaH had commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they do. So what? It was the Passover sacrifice. The sacrifice, he delivered our households. You do that service and your household is delivered. And it's a service that you have to do forever, for all your generations, and you have to teach your children to do it as well. I'll carry on. Passover regulations. The 10th plague, death of the firstborn. And it came to pass at midnight, and it came to pass at midnight that YaHaWaH struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the captives who was in the dungeons. In the dungeon. And all the firstborn of livestock. So Pharaoh rose in the night. So Pharaoh rose in the night, he and all his servants and all of the Egyptians and so the whole land was awake now. And there was a great cry. There was a great cry after they seen all of them bodies out there. Like, what in the world? Poltergeist, a great cry, for there was not a household where there was not one dead of the Egyptians. Then he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, rise, go out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go serve YaHaWaH as you have said. Also take your flocks and your herds as you have said, and be gone, and bless me also, and please, bless him also as you leave. And the Egyptians urged the Egyptians urged the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we shall all be dead. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, having their kneading bowls bound up in their clothing on their shoulders. Now the children of Israel had done according to the word of Moses, and they had asked for the Egyptians articles of silver, articles of gold, and clothing. And YaHaWaH had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they granted them with that whatever they requested. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. So they went through, they was like, give me this, I'll take that. You what, for real? Alright, cool. You gonna give me 10 million for retribution so I can get some, alright, cool. And I can get these gold bricks and these diamonds too, just in case your dollar fall. Okay, yeah, give me that. I'll take a Bentley too. But anyway, then the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth. Alright, so now we're gonna go for real. I just gave the breakdown of what the Passover is for. It's the Lord's Passover, and it's a service that you have to do. All that's by generations, and it's known as the service is known as the Passover. So now we're gonna take all of these elements, and now we're gonna see. We should kind of now. Well, I say it now. Now I'll just keep pointing out certain things. I'm gonna point out certain things, then I'm gonna say it. So let's do this. So they just went through Passover and how it's supposed to be celebrated and what you're supposed to eat. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at we're gonna take a look at YaHaWaShi's part in all of this. Now, I want to point out, as they were eating, what was they eating? What was they? They was eating their Passover meal. Now, so basically, that's what the individuals. All right, I'll just say it like that. They were eating the Passover meal. As they were eating, YaHaWaShi took bread, blessed the bread and broke it, and gave it to the disciples, and he said, take it, this is my body, the sin sacrifice. Take it, this is my body, remember me. Then he took the cup, and he gave thanks, and he gave it to them, saying, drink of it, all of you. Then he took the cup, and gave thanks to the Father, and gave it to them, saying, drink from it, all of you. For this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remissions of sins. His body, his blood was spilled as a sacrifice on a Passover, like the Egyptians, for remissions. Like our houses were delivered, now YaHaWaShi is coming in remissions of sins. Then we have deliverance again. But I say to you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now or until, but I say to you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on until that day when I drink it new with you in my Abraham in his father's kingdom. Drinking it new with you. New with you. We'll all be with the word and in the word, submerged in the word. Doing so now because we are in Hamashiach. We believe in Hamashiach. So therefore we live in the Hamashiach, his ways, the things that he taught during that particular time. He was battling against the Talmud and how people was trying to change the words of the Father, certain regulations. And then when he said, take of this cup, this is my body. Oh, take this is my blood. And then he said, take this crocodile, eat it. This is my body, the body that was sacrificed for the sins and the remissions of men. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount Olives. Okay. YaHaWaShi celebrates the Passover with his disciples. And we're going to go here. And he set out two of his disciples and said to them, go into the city and a man will meet you carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him wherever he goes in. Say to the master of the house, to the teacher, say, where's the guest room in which I may eat the Passover with my disciples? Then he will show you a large upper room, furnished and prepared. There make ready for us. There make ready for us. So his disciples went out and came into the city and found it just as he had said to them, and they prepared the Passover. In the evening he came with the 12. Now as they sat and ate, YaHaWaShi said, assuredly I say to you, one of you who eats with me will betray me. Salathia, I don't know. I think everything is correct or good now. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. So they begin to ask one another, is it I? Is it I? Is it I? Is it I? All 12 of them, right? So he answered and said to them, it is one of the 12 who dips with me in the dish. The Son of Man indeed goes just as it is written of him. The Son of Man indeed goes just as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had never been born. So he's talking about the becoming a sacrifice for sins and everything. All right, and basically he predicted the room. So now he's predicting that one of them is going to betray him, and he's seeing everything. The Father is giving him the Son, or the Holy Spirit. The Father's Holy Spirit, Ruach Kodeshech, is ascended upon him. So now the anointing is official, and it's closing in. So YaHaWaShi is in oneness. He's in connection now, and he's just like moving, and he's seeing everything play out in 3D. So he's telling everyone that the situation is drawing to where prophecy is about to be fulfilled, and he will become the sin sacrifice and everything for their sins, and on this Passover they shall be delivered. All right. As they were eating, YaHaWaShi took bread, blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to them, and said, take it, this is my body. Then he took up the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and a cup, and then he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. And he said to them, this is my blood of the new covenant which is shed for many. Assuredly I say to you, I will no longer drink of the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom of YaHaWaH. Now, in the kingdom of YaHaWaH, but Matthew just said, and he said it in the kingdom of his Father. But hey, people, it's some pretty it's a lot of stuff going on that day. So I don't think that all witnesses will get it accurately word for word. So then why would you need the different points of opinion in the way that they saw it? All right, so now or saw the evening unfolding. So now we see and continue to draw on that the Messiah, all of his disciples and everyone, they kept the Passover. So, they're Hebrews and they were keeping the Passover. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and go to here. What do I have this here? Oh, Salakia. YaHaWaShi and his disciples prepared the Passover. That service, right? So they had said to him, what do you want us to prepare? Where do you want us to prepare? And he said to them, behold, when I have entered the city, not, make sure everybody had palms in their hands and ash crosses on their forehead. But now when I had entered the city, a man will meet you, carrying a pitcher of water, follow him into the house which he enters. All right, so now Luke is giving the same account as far as what everyone else has said. So, basically it's adding up. So now we want to go here. Likewise, he also took the cup after the supper, saying, this is the new covenant in my body, which is shed for you. But behold, the hand of my betrayer is with me on the table. And truly, the Son of Man goes as it has been determined. But woe to that man by whom he is betrayed. But woe to that man by whom he is betrayed. Then they begin to question themselves which of them which it was. And he goes into the disciples argue about greatness. So basically Luke's given a totally different aspect of what was going on around him in that particular time, or in the area in which he was, and how he's seen everything started to play out. All right, and I'm just scrolling through it. Just in case you want to pause, read it, you can. So now we're gonna go ahead and bounce over to John's testimony, or John. I don't know why I have that though. Let's see what that is. All right, YaHaWaShi warns and comforts his disciples. All right, these things I have spoken to you, that you should not be made to stumble. They will put you out of the synagogues. They will put you out of the synagogues. Yes, the Pharisees, the individuals that's controlling it now. They will put you out of the Jewish individuals. They will put you out of the synagogues. Yes, the time is coming that whoever kills you will think that he offers Allah's service. And these things they will do to you, because they have not known Allah or Abraham the Father, nor me, known the word of the Father. But these things I have told you, that when the time comes, you may remember that I told you of them. Now, when the time comes, you may remember that I told you of them. And this is him fighting it again, saying the scribes and the Sadducees and the synagogue that they're changing, and they're coming up with this Talmudic way in which you're supposed to represent, you're supposed to follow the word when the word is already written, and then they're trying to change and add to. That's the synagogue of Satan. All right, so they will put you out of the synagogues. But these things I have told you, that when the time comes, you may remember that I told you of them. Remember me. Drink of my body. Eat of my body. Drink of my flesh. Do this in remembrance of me, that I spilled my blood for the unleavened bread of Elohim, Abraham, YaHaWaH. Basically. All right, so go ahead and go here. And when is the time and come that you have to, or he wanted us to remember that it was, remember him, do this in remembrance of me. Let's go. We look at here. Alright, now the Passover of YaHaWaShi was at hand. And YaHaWaShi went up to Jerusalem, and he found in the temple those who sold oxen and sheep and doves and the money changers doing business. When he had made a whip of cords, he drove them out. He drove them out of all of the temple with the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money and overturned the tables. And he said to those who sold doves, take these things away. Do not make my father Abraham YaHaWaH, or make my Abraham house a house of merchandise. Then his disciples remembered that it was written, zeal for your house has eaten me up. Zeal for your house has eaten me up. So the Jews answered him and said to him, what sign do you show to us since you do these things? And YaHaWaShi answered and said to them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will rise it up again. Remember these words. Do this in remembrance of me. Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will rise it up again. Then the Jews said, it has taken 40 years to build this temple, and you will raise it up in 3 days? But he was speaking of the temple of his body. Therefore, the perfect sacrifice that was anointed by the Father, the Word, the embodied with the anointment, the Most High Priest became the perfect sacrifice. Therefore, when he had risen from the dead, his disciples remembered him. Therefore, do this, drink of my body, eat of my body, drink of my blood. Do this in remembrance of me, that I will rise in 3 days. Therefore, when he had risen from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this to them, and they believed the scriptures. And when he said that, they did what? They believed the scriptures and the word in which YaHaWaShi has said. I'm gonna do it. I pointed out what you're supposed to do for the Passover. I mean, what the meal in which you're supposed to have on the Passover, the time frame in which you're supposed to do different stages of the Passover, and there's certain instructions that it was supposed to be a memorial for you for generations, that you had to do these things. It's what's ordered in remembrance of the Father bringing us out of Egypt, out of the land of Egypt, and his personal dealings with bringing us out of Egypt, basically. All right, so now I'll go ahead and end this with this. all with bringing us forth out of Egypt. Promises of the blessings by retribution. You shall not make idols for yourselves, neither a carved image, nor sacrificed or sacred pillars. Neither a carved image nor sacred pillars shall you rear up for yourselves, nor shall you set up an engraved stone in your hand to bow down to it. For I am YaHaWaH. You shall keep my Sabbaths and reverence my sanctuary. I am YaHaWaH, or I YaHaWaH. For if you walk in my statutes, and if you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and perform them, then I will give you rain in its season. The land shall yield its produce, and the trees of the field shall yield their fruit. Your threshing shall last till the time of vintage, and the vintage shall last till the time of sowing. What you reap, you will sow. You shall eat of the bread. You shall eat your bread to the full, and dwell in the land of safety. I will give peace in the land, and ye shall lie down, and none will make you afraid. I will rid the land of evil beasts, and the sword will not go through your land. And the sword will not go through your land. You will chase your enemies, and they shall fall by the sword before you. 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 of you shall put 10,000 to flight. Your enemies shall fall by the sword before you, for I will look on you favorably and make you fruitful, multiply and comfort and confirm my covenant with you. These are the chosen ones. You shall eat the old harvest and clear out the old because of the new. I will set my tabernacle among you. I will set my tabernacle among you, and my soul shall not abhor you. I will walk among you and be your Elohim, and I will walk among you and be your Elohim, and ye shall be my people, and you shall be my people, and I, YaHaWaH, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the Passover, that you shall not be their slaves, that you shall not be their slaves. I have broken the bands of your yoke and made you walk upright. But if you do not obey me, if you do not obey me and do not observe all these commandments, and if you despise my statutes, or if your soul hopefully that fixed it. All right, there we go. All right. And if you despise my statutes, or if your soul abhors my judgment, so that you do not perform all of my commandments, but break my covenant, I will also do this to you. I also will do this to you. I will even appoint terror over you, wasting disease and fever, which shall consume the eyes and cause sorrow of your heart. And ye shall sow your seed in vain, for your enemies shall eat it. And I will set my face against you, and you shall be defeated by your enemies. Thus, who hate you shall reign over you, and you shall flee when no one pursues you. And after all this, if you do not obey me, and after all of this, if you do not obey me, then I will punish you 7 times more for your sin. I will break the pride of your power. I will make your heavens like iron, and your earth like bronze, and your strength shall be spent in vain. For your land shall not yield its produce, nor shall the trees of your land yield their fruit. Then if you walk contrary to me and are not willing to obey me, I will bring on you 7 times more plagues according to your sins. And I will also send wild beasts among you, which shall rob you of your children, destroy your livestock, and make you few in numbers. And YaHaWaH shall be desolate. And if you by these things are not reformed by me, but walk contrary to me, then I will also walk contrary to you, and I will punish you 7 times for your sins. I will bring a sword against you that execute the vengeance of the covenant. I will bring a sword against you that will execute the vengeance of the covenant. When you are gathered together within your cities, I will send pestilences among you, and you shall be delivered into the hand of your enemy, and you shall be delivered into the hand of your enemy. When I have cut off your supply of bread, 10 women shall bake your bread in one oven, and they shall bring back your bread by weight. They're gonna give it to when I have cut off your supply of bread, 10 women shall bake your bread in one oven, and they shall bring back your bread by weight, and ye shall eat and not be satisfied. After all of this, if you do not obey me, but walk contrary to me, then I also will walk contrary to you in fury. And I will chasten you 7 times for your sin. You shall eat the flesh of your sons, and you shall eat the flesh of your daughters, and I will destroy your high places, cut down your incense altars, and cast your carcasses on the lifeless forms of your idols. Cast your carcasses on the lifeless forms of your idols. And my soul shall abhor you, I will lay your cities waste and bring your sanctuaries to desolation. And I will not smell the fragrances of your sweet aromas. I will bring the land to desolation, and your enemies who dwell in it shall be astonished at it. I will scatter you among nations and draw out the sword after you. Your cities shall be desolate, and your cities waste. Then the land shall enjoy its Sabbath as long as it lies desolate, and you are in your enemy's land. As the land lays desolate while you are in your enemy's land, the land shall rest and enjoy its Sabbath. As long as it lies desolate, it shall rest. For the time it did not rest on your Sabbaths when you dwelt in it. And as for those of you who are left, I will send faintnesses into their hearts and in the lands of their enemies, faintnesses in their hearts in the lands of their enemies. The sound of a shaken leaf shall cause them to flee. They shall flee as though fleeing from a sword, and they shall fall when no one pursueth. They shall stumble over one another as were before a sword where no one pursueth, and you shall have no power to stand before your enemies. You shall perish among the nations. You shall perish among the nations, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up, and the lands of your enemies shall eat you up. And those of you who are left shall waste away in their iniquities, shall waste away in their iniquities in your enemies' land. Also their fathers' iniquities which are with them, their fathers' iniquities which are with them, they shall waste away. But if they confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their unfaithfulness, in which they were unfaithful to YaHaWaH or to me, and that they also have walked contrary to me, and that I also have walked contrary to them, and I have brought them out of the lands of their enemies. If they see Egypt, Passover, sacrificial lamb, the land of their enemies, if their uncircumcised hearts are humble, if their uncircumcised hearts are humbled, and they accept their guilt, then I will remember my covenant with Jacob, and my covenant with Isaac, and with my covenant of Abraham. I will remember. So with the covenant of who? Jacob, Isaac, Abraham, his covenant. So who is he talking to? Is he talking to the whole world, or is he talking to Hebrews? All right, so he will remember that covenant. I will remember my covenant. The land where they're scattered, and the nations won't eat you up. The land also shall be left empty. The land also shall be left by them, and will enjoy its Sabbaths while it lies desolate without them. They will accept their guilt, because they despise my judgments, and because their souls abhorred my statutes. For all that, when they are in the land of their enemies, I will cast them away, nor shall I abhor them. Hold on, in the land for all of that, when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away, nor shall I abhor them, to utterly destroy them and break my covenant with them. For I am YaHaWaH, their YaHaWaH. I am YaHaWaH, their YaHaWaH. But for their sake, I will remember my covenant of their ancestors. But for their sakes, I will remember the covenant of their ancestors, who I brought out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the nations, that I might be their YaHaWaH. I am YaHaWaH. These are the statutes and judgments and laws in which YaHaWaH made between himself and the children of Israel on Mount Sinai by the hand of Moses, or Moshe. By the hand of Moshe. Thus, so just to do a little brief recap. All right, we understand, or hopefully everybody understands what you're supposed to eat for the Passover. You're supposed to have your lamb, then striking your doorpost. I have two doors, so I have two doorposts that I have to strike down and over the top of the door frames. All right, so therefore, and after everything that I eat, or how I'm gonna celebrate it, I'm going to take the remainder of my lamb bone. I'm gonna have my lamb, my bitter herbs, and my unleavened bread, and then with the lamb bone, or what remains of the lamb bone that I'm not gonna eat, I'm just gonna go ahead and burn it up, roast it up until it's gone. So, I'm gonna burn it up. I'm gonna follow the ritual, or follow the way that we're supposed to hold it. The ritual, the way that it's supposed to be held. then after that, I'm gonna take my communion, chill out for the rest of the evening, listen to Leviticus physically, and read Leviticus as well, even though I just went through Leviticus and, you know, Deuteronomy, Exodus. I'm read through Exodus more so of my focus. Well, all of them basically. So technically, with this lesson here, we technically just did what we're supposed to do on the Passover. The only thing we didn't do was break bread together. But mostly, if you took the time out to coast it all the way through this video, Thawadah, much love. I love you. Thank you. Most definitely, Ox and YaHaWaH, you know, my brothers and my sisters. So basically, we go ahead, we look at and we honor the Sabbath well, not the Sabbath, but the Passover, and we keep it with the way that is biblically written, and not a way to where it's under any influences of the pagans or the scribes and Sadducees that came up with a Talmudic doctrine in order to look at that as holy scripture opposed over the Hebraic Bible. So basically, you have a book of 4 Hebrews written by 4 Hebrews by Hebrews, and you have another nation of individuals that's taking it, and they like, all right, we're gonna call ourselves Jews, but we're gonna follow the Talmud. We created something totally different, just like with the language, the Lashon, the Yiddish, just like with the language Yiddish. So with that, I want to say, hopefully everyone has a blessed Sabbath, and may the Most High bless you, keep you, may His face shine upon you, His countenance give you peace. And with that, I'm going to just go ahead and close out. If you have any particular questions, or if you have any content that you want me to work on for you, I do take requests. I've been wanting to say that. I do take requests, so if you have any content that you want or questions I ask, I take requests. So if you leave a comment down in the comment section and I see it, and when I get to it, then I can make a personal video about that topic, and address it, or I'll just address it directly within the comment section. But I do take well, I won't say I'm receptive to ideas for new content. Put it like that. All right, so with that, I want to say I love you all. Stay blessed, stay at peace, stay prayed up, and be at one with the Father. Thawadah YaHaWaH, Abraham YaHaWaH, BaHashem, HaMashiach YaHaWaShi, Uvain Barakat Ruach Kodesecha. Much love, peace. To the next one.